What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this right now. If you're looking for a Chicago Bulls video today, it is probably best that you click off this video, as that's not what this is going to be about. At the end of the day, the playoffs are still happening, and obviously all the series into the second round have now come to an end, and we know the final four teams competing for a championship, the two in the East and the two in the West. And I do feel like at the end of the day, I want to talk about those series. I want to talk about the teams, the disappointment, obviously the positivity behind some of those teams, and again, just give my overall prediction on the whole thing. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about who you think will qualify into the NBA Finals from the East and from the West. At the end of the day, I understand this is a Bulls channel, and look, there's going to be the majority, probably 99.9% of videos will be about the Chicago Bulls. But today, and for the NBA Finals and stuff like that, at least one video, I do want to discuss these predictions, because I do feel like being part of the NBA culture is still very important, and the NBA playoffs are still happening. For some Bulls fans, they could not care anything about the NBA playoffs, and I understand that, and to an extent I do kind of feel that way as well. I don't necessarily care who wins the NBA championship. I have one team in mind that I think will win it all, but at the end of the day, regardless of what happens, I think I'll be content with whoever wins. Then you move over into those people that care a lot. People pick their second teams. People support who's left in the NBA playoffs. And again, I have a team in mind that I'm supporting. I won't reveal who that is, just for the sake of trying to be as unbiased as possible. But, you know, there are constants there that people do want to support certain teams, you know. I think a lot of people would want to support the Lakers because of the LeBron James factor and the Anthony Davis factor. He's from Chicago, so people from Chicago might want to support the Lakers. I think as an underdog, people might want to pick the Miami Heat, or people might even want to pick the Denver Nuggets because they've never been in the NBA Finals. There's so much to dissect in that way. I feel like it is important regardless to talk about. So, obviously, these teams had series that just ended, so let's talk about them real quick. We'll start off with the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers, because that ended in Game 7, and that ended literally earlier on today for me. And I gotta say, I'm very disappointed in the way that Philadelphia bowed out of this series. I expected a much closer competition. I expected a much closer game. But when someone drops 50 on your head in a Game 7, bringing, I think it's the highest scoring game in a Game 7 in history, that is a huge milestone for Jason Tatum, who, let's be honest, has not showed up in the playoffs anywhere near the level that we expect from him. And that's been a problem last season as well. He didn't show up well in the finals, and a lot of people put big responsibility onto his name as to why the Celtics got eliminated in the NBA Finals. But Game 7, the ultimate time to show up to a series, and Jason Tatum delivered in amazing fashion. And not to mention, on the other side of things, both James Harden and Joel Embiid did not provide any sort of positive play in Game 7. So that's extremely disappointing. Now, to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers future, I've heard a lot of people talk about rebuilds and stuff like that. To be honest, you have an MVP caliber player on your team in Joel Embiid. Yes, he didn't play like it. Yes, he doesn't play like it in playoff series from time to time. But at the end of the day, he's an MVP caliber player. In my eyes, as long as you have a player like Joel Embiid on your team, if you can keep him healthy, you are always going to be competing in some way, form, or fashion. I don't think that going for a complete rebuild is the answer for Philadelphia. They've been rebuilding most of my lifetime since I've been watching Philadelphia. I've experienced the days before the trust the process. I've experienced those days when they had the Drew Holidays on their team and the Iguodala's on their team, and they were not necessarily good. I remember the days with Spencer Hawes on their team as well. You know, blast from the past in many ways. I think Thaddeus Young was once on their team as well. I remember those days, and it wasn't great days for Philadelphia. Do you really want to go back to that type of situation? The way that I see it, you have big decisions to make on a lot of players, and I think you need to retool this team. I don't think you need a complete rebuild. I do not think you need to start again. I think with Joel Embiid on the team, you have your cornerstone player, and I believe with the right team around him, he can be massively effective. But this current team, as good as I believe it is, it still needs a little bit more work, and that's where Philadelphia needs to make their improvements. And I strongly hope they're not going for a complete complete rebuild, because I don't think that franchise deserves another 10 to 15 years of not being good. I think that franchise deserves more than that. But at the end of the day, I am just a Bulls fan at the end of the day, not to play favorites or anything like that. So we'll see what happens with Philadelphia. But Boston, what an incredible series from the Boston Celtics. Now, to be fair, I must admit, Boston are not looking as dominant as I thought they would be. To be honest, the two teams that I thought would make the NBA Finals would be the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, Milwaukee bowed out of this playoffs very, very early. And the whole saga about failure or not, that's not what we're here to talk about. Boston getting through to the Eastern Conference Finals is big for them, but they're not looking as strong as I thought they would be, which could prove to be a challenge, because I really picked them to win it all in many ways. So wait and see how things go. It's definitely not impossible that they can't win it all, but I'm not too convinced right now. So we'll see what happens in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. Now, to talk about that series in general, let's obviously talk about Miami and the Knicks. I recently talked about the Knicks and how proud I am of players like Jalen Brunson, who had a terrific playoff series, and the Knicks in many ways brought up a good fight. But one of the things that I'm very okay with is admitting when I'm wrong. And I was completely wrong about Miami, as I think the vast majority of people were wrong about Miami, and even Miami Heat fans were wrong about Miami. This team's the real deal. At the end of the day, getting past the first seed, people might have called it a fluke. Call it what you like, it happened. People would have said, including myself, that the Knicks would be a harder challenge. And maybe it was a harder challenge, but it's a challenge they dealt with pretty comfortably, I would say, in decent fashion. So fair play to Miami on going to the Eastern Conference Finals from the bloody 8th seed. We have to give them credit for that. It's phenomenal. Fair play to them. They deserve that praise. And not to mention, they're doing it without Tyler Hero as well. So you can't discredit Miami Heat this right now. I think they're the surprise of the playoffs, and I think they deserve a lot of respect. And when it's all said and done, if they end up winning the championship, if they go home in the finals, or if they get eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think anyone can sit here and say they've had a failure of a season right now. They've delivered and then some for that Miami Heat fan base, so fair play to them. And of course, I thought that was a very good defensive-minded series, and I admired both teams and how they played overall. Not the most entertaining games, but you could tell that both teams worked very hard and wanted those series. When a guy like Jalen Brunson plays 48 minutes and is delivering the stats that he does, you could tell that he wanted it. He wanted that series. And I'm sure it's disappointing that he's going to be going home. But let's look at the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat series. Of course, this series happened in the bubble, and I believe Miami ended up beating the Boston Celtics. Now, I know these two teams don't necessarily like each other very well. All the way back to the LeBron days, these two teams have had rivalries for a long, long time. So I know there's going to be a little bit of bitterness in this series. All the more for a neutral. I welcome that. I really want to see more of that in the NBA. I want to see those rivalries. I want to see the desperation of both teams. Sometimes I want to see a little bit of passion from both teams, and I think we're going to get that in this series. I don't think this is going to be an easy series for the Boston Celtics. As I said before, it's not looking convincing, some of these performances they've delivered. It is as simple as that, but they're here, so you got to give them respect in that department. And Miami might be overachieving. Maybe they're not overachieving, but they're here as well. I expect this to be a very, very, very tough fight for both teams. Who I see walking out from this, at the end of the day, the underdogs might potentially prevail, but I'm going to pick Boston once again. I think Boston will win this series in 6 games. I've been saying it for pretty much every series Boston are in. I think they're that type of team where they're not going to sweep a team in my eyes. I don't think they're that type of team, because you've seen there are weaknesses to their game, and if Jason Tatum doesn't show up to some of these games, it will cause massive problems for them. So at the end of the day, I can't see them sweeping the Miami Heat, but I expect this to be a fight, a tough battle, and Boston might be overlooking Miami, and I think that will be some of their downfalls in those games. I think Miami will provide a great fight for them, but I don't see them going to the NBA Finals, not this time at least. I'm picking Boston in 6. I pick Boston in 6 in all these series, by the way, and I've only been right against the Atlanta Hawks. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move over into the West. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets series, and it pretty much played out exactly how I thought it would be. We needed to see Devin Booker and Kevin Durant drop bangers after bangers every single game, dropping a massive amount of points, massive amount of defense, massive amount of minutes, everything in between, because obviously some of the injuries Phoenix sustained, but their lack of bench depth, it was just a hindrance all series, and it was just very disappointing from their side of things. And Denver had the better structured team. They played more with each other. Their bench is obviously much better. They're a better three-pointer shooting team, I believe, in general. And they have an MVP caliber player on their team in his own right. So again, Denver should have been the favorites to walk into this series. And that's why I picked them. And they did what they were supposed to do. They beat the Phoenix Suns. For Phoenix, the goal for them is to look at the offseason, digest what the team is going to be about. You should not be giving up on this team right now. The fact that they got rid of their coach, honestly, it filled me with rage in many ways. And look, again, I'm not someone that really likes to follow the NBA culture the way that I'm currently doing it. But when I saw that news, that they got rid of their coach, I was fuming inside, because I think he's a great coach. He should not have been gotten rid of when this team just basically formed with a superstar caliber player like Kevin Durant, and clear problems there that a head coach cannot always fix. It pissed me off a lot, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore. But look, they're going to have to figure out their coaching, fair enough. But their bench, they need to figure that out as well. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant is a dynamic duo that I think can truly work. Devin Booker is arguably the best player in the playoffs thus far. He's been phenomenal so far. Yes, he's had, obviously the last game I don't think he did incredibly well, but for the most part, he's been producing at the highest level you could possibly ask a player to produce. And Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. He might not be the Kevin Durant he once was, but he's still a player that could drop 40 on your head at any given time. It's as simple as that. So, again, they have, I think, their partnership. They've got the supporting cast. If you want to get rid of DeAndre Ayton, I'm sure you're going to get something in return of equal value. You're not going to get rid of DeAndre Ayton for peanuts in many ways. And Chris Paul is a serviceable point guard even at his age. He just has to stay healthy. Phoenix needs to do a better job in load managing him so he is healthy towards, obviously, those bigger games. But their bench is where I think their biggest weaknesses lie. For Denver, phenomenal. Honestly, a phenomenal series for them, and they're back in the Western Conference Finals. But this is the next step for Denver. What is their next, move going to be? Will they choke and lose to the LA Lakers, or will they finally get over that stepping stone in conquering the West? It's something they have not done before, and it's something that I feel people don't trust them to do. So that's the next step for Denver, because overall, they played a great series against Phoenix, and they were the expected winners in my eyes, and they got the job done. Now it's up to that next level. What can they do? Because they're playing a very tough team, and another team that I was wrong about. The LA Lakers are the real deal. Now, I know a couple of people on this channel from the comments that I see are not massive fans of the LA Lakers, and they won't admit that the LA Lakers are the real deal. Speaking of Miami going from the 8th seed to the Eastern Conference Finals, we cannot forget that the LA Lakers were the 7th seed at the end of it and are now in the Western Conference Finals. So you have to give them some level of respect, whether you like them or you hate them. They are the real deal right now. They're performing at an unbelievable level, and their team is gelling at the right moments. LeBron James, phenomenal Game 6, and honestly is a guy that picks his moments, but he can prove once again he's one of the greatest players we have ever seen. Anthony Davis, healthy, first and foremost. I think he had a head injury at some point throughout this series, but I think he played right afterwards. He's been healthy, and that is the key. Can Anthony Davis remain healthy? If he does, the Lakers should feel extremely confident going into this series. And obviously for the Golden State Warriors, the reigning champions, look, all of the problems they had in the regular season came back to bite them in the playoffs. The fact that they couldn't win many away games, the fact that they, I think at one point, were one of the teams that had the worst record in the playoffs, and yet they were still fighting in the second round. It caught up to them at the end of the day. Is it over for the Golden State Warriors? Is the whole dynasty over? I think you're going to have to prove it for more than one season in my eyes. This dynasty has been going on for years upon years upon years, and they've delivered some amazing performances. They're a great overall team. I don't think one bad season in which they get eliminated in the second round will prove their demise. I don't think their whole dynasty is over. It's going to have to be more than one season for me to believe that their dynasty is over. So let's wait and see what happens next season. And I think in 2 seasons' time, massive decisions have to be made for them in the direction of winning or the direction of rebuilding. There's going to have to be decisions made in my eyes. It will not be as simple and cut and dry as keep everybody the same for 2 or 3 more years. I don't think it's going to work like that financially. And of course, if they keep on losing or getting eliminated in the second round, it won't work in that department either. But yeah, overall, Look, Curry's still great, Clay's great, Wiggins is great, Draymond's great, but their whole problems of not winning away from home, it caught up to them. Their defense as well was not good, and it caught up to them as well. So that's the areas they need to improve upon next season. They also should be looking into some of their bench options and see if they can provide better bench production from their team. That's what I think needs to happen for the Warriors. But who's going to win between LA and the Denver Nuggets? That's tough. That's really, really tough. In my opinion, that's much harder to predict than the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. Because in my eyes, experience matters in the NBA playoffs. And LeBron James and Anthony Davis are both won a ring. But besides that, LeBron James has been in this stage before. And he's gotten teams that are worse than this to the higher levels before. Now, this might not be the same LeBron James as he was in Cleveland, but it's still a dangerous LeBron James, and the guy next to him is very dangerous when he's playing healthy. So I don't know. I can obviously cop out and say if Anthony Davis doesn't stay healthy, Denver will win. But if Anthony Davis does stay healthy and that team continues to play that same way, I think it's hard to turn away from the LA Lakers right now. And I think Denver needs to prove it. I think they need to prove they could get over the hump of beating the West. Because I think, in all honesty, if Boston have a bad series against Miami, if Miami win the series, for example, or Boston doesn't produce in that series and they take it to 7 and it's a very close, tight window and they don't get the job done, in my opinion, that confidence in Boston is going to get diminished if they can't deal with Miami, not necessarily in a dominant way, but in a way that's capable from their team. Because they're not producing like they should be. And I think whoever comes out of the West could be a massive threat to win it all this season, the way that I think things have transpired thus far. May have not felt that way at the beginning of the playoffs, but it's how I feel now. So in my eyes, I'm going to pick the LA Lakers. I'm going to pick it in 7, just because I can't see any of these teams giving an inch, and I don't want to believe Denver's going to choke to the point where it's going to be an easy series for the Lakers. But I feel like Denver needs to prove they could get over that hump. And I don't want to give them the easy route of saying I think it's going to be them, when I know the players that if I was going to go against the Denver Nuggets, I know the players that are there that I know have done it before and have reached that pedestal before. And I think they can do it again the way the team is playing. And it's surprising because they are the 7th seed. And as a 7th seed, it's hard to back that team because, you know, it's not normal to see a 7th seed win a championship or get to the finals. It's not normal for the 8th seed to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but here we are. Very bizarre, and it shows the skill level between the 1st seeded teams to the 8th seeded teams is coming closer and closer together. We are getting more competitive playoff series than we probably have ever seen. And the fact that I'm picking the 7th seed over the 1st seed in the West, I think it shows everything. But again, I expect both series to be close. I definitely expect the Denver and the Lakers series to be very entertaining. I don't know how to feel about the Boston and Miami series, but that's my predictions for both. 18 minutes, I apologize for that, but I also wanted to talk about what's next for those teams that got eliminated in the Philadelphia 76ers and in the New York Knicks case, and of course the Warriors case and the Phoenix Suns case. That's what I wanted to leave no stone unturned, because there's not many NBA videos you're going to see from me again. You're going to see an NBA Finals prediction, you're going to see me congratulate the winner of the championship, and that's about it. It's back to Bulls business. So for those people that want to see more NBA content, I know there are quite a few of you asking me to make NBA channels, asking me to do more NBA related content. It's not my thing. I like talking about the Bulls. I don't necessarily like talking about all of the other teams in the NBA. But for the small time that you get to see me do it, I hope the 18 to 19 minutes was worth your while. I hope it did justice. I hope I spoke some sense. I hope I'm not crazy in the head. But let's wait and see how people react to this video. And that's about it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.